few weeks ago, I was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area taking a quick, cheap vacation. I came in on Amtrak's Heartland Flyer from Oklahoma City and took the opportunity to go to the Meow Wolf and Grapevine, as well as the Fort Worth Museum of Modern Art, and lots of train stations, new and old, big and small. It was extremely hot, but a lot of fun. The DFW area does not have the most expansive public transit in the world, to be sure, but I am proud to say that I only had to get on a lift once. Between running around to see very large and horny ungulates, weird art, and eating lots of very good beef, I decided to get some footage of some of the historic train stations around the Metroplex and learn more about their histories so that I can get started on this larger project, Great Stations. Dallas might seem like a strange place to start. Why not start with Kansas City Union Station or Chicago Union Station? Grand Central? Well, there are a few answers. First, I would like this channel to focus on less well-worn topics. Second, the history of rail is as central to the story of Dallas as it is to the story of any other major American city. We forget that history. The main reason is that it's very convenient for me. The Heartland Flyer is a good train with growing ridership, which makes me very happy. Rail first arrived in Dallas in 1872. Dallas was at that time a little city of about 3,000 people. It was about 16 years old officially. The incoming railroads would ensure a precipitous growth over the course of the following decades. For the first 40 years or so of that growth, Dallas's rail system was a complex array of freight lines and passenger lines, servicing several passenger depots owned by several different companies. All that trackage from those lines took up valuable downtown real estate that people were desperate to develop in the fast-growing city. Enter George Kessler. Kessler was born in Thuringia in the German Confederation, modern-day central Germany. His family immigrated to the United States when he was young, settling in Dallas in the late 1860s, where Kessler's father and uncle invested in a cotton plantation. In the late 1870s, after his father died, the family briefly moved back to Germany so that the young Kessler could undergo training in landscape architecture. He apprenticed at a gardening school, studying botany, forestry, and design, worked for a major plant nursery, studied at several other gardening schools, and finally completed a civil engineering course at the University of Vienna. Upon returning to the United States, Kessler worked as a gardener in New York City, corresponding with the famous landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted, who encouraged him to be more ambitious. On Olmsted's recommendation, Kessler took a position with the Kansas City, Fort Scott, and Gulf Railroad, overseeing construction and maintenance of parks and public grounds. By 1887, Kessler had opened his own architectural practice in Kansas City. He used this practice to champion and advance the City Beautiful movement, working on projects in Kansas City, Topeka, Dallas, Denver, Memphis, Nashville, and many other cities. Back in Dallas, he created a major new urban plan for the city after being hired by the Dallas Chamber of Commerce in 1909. The Kessler Plan included strategies to control the regular flooding of the Trinity River, beautification of city streets, and the removal of dangerous downtown rail crossings by consolidating 5 rail stations into a new Union Station. The new Union Station building was completed in 1916. It wasn't designed by Kessler, but instead by Jervis Hunt. Hunt had completed his masterpiece 2 years earlier, another rail station in Kansas City you might be familiar with. I'll definitely need to talk about that one later. In spite of the fact that Dallas was the larger city in the region, Dallas Union Station was often overshadowed by the busier Fort Worth Union Station and T&P Station. More on Fort Worth next episode. By the end of the Second World War, it had entered a serious decline. The station saw as many as 80 daily trains at its peak, but the final all aboard was called for the final Western Texas Eagle train toward El Paso in 1969. Between 1969 and 1973, Union Station was essentially closed. But this was not the end of Dallas Union Station, luckily. In 1973, service began on Amtrak's Inter-American, which was later restructured into a revived Texas Eagle. The 1980s and 90s saw the return of even more rail, first with Amtrak, then Dart Light Rail, and finally the Trinity Railway Express commuter rail system. Unfortunately, Dallas Union Station probably will not see any high-speed rail connections due to opposition to new downtown commuter rail. That story is constantly in flux, though, so things might change. We'll see. Thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to exploring even more stations on this channel. Give me suggestions in the comments. I'd love to hear what great stations you are interested in learning about.